Okay, we're going to use a little bit of water to smudge the colors. Now we need to keep this light up here. We don't want it to be too dark. So I use my rag whenever I pull out some color because I don't want the color to be too dark. Now down here it can be a little darker because it's a shadow. See how that gets really black? But I don't want it to be very black, so I wash out my brush periodically. I want it to be just a tiny bit lighter right there. Always checking the color. So see how quickly I wash and wipe? It's important to use the rag because if you don't, you'll have too much water on the brush. I'm always checking the color. Fading it. I want to fade it up a little bit. Just bring a little at a time, because we need to help that belly to look round. I'm going to have to wash frequently because I don't want to bring too much color up. Now if I get too much color, I can always wipe a little bit of it out. See how I can clean it out a little bit? See, I'm washing a lot, but I'm not using a whole lot of water because I'm just getting enough, just like a damp brush. The brush is not supposed to be wet. The brush is only damp. That way I can control the color. Because if you make this is just sketch paper, it can't take a lot of water, so we don't want to have a very wet brush and we don't want to have a very wet paper. So I'm just barely moving a little bit of color. That's kind of dark, so I want to pull out some of these wrinkles. So I'm just going to grab it like that. These are supposed to be wrinkles, so we'll just kind of soften it in. I can come back in after a while and add some more wrinkles with the pencil. Okay, it's a little bit too dark right here, so we'll take out a little color. Okay, let's go into a dark area over on the head. This is a very dark spot, so I'm just going to stay, first of all, right in that dark spot. And whenever we add a little bit of water, it's very, very black. But if I were to come out here, see, that would become darker, so I don't want that to get too dark. So I'm very carefully watching my shadows and the shapes. I'm kind of staying in where I put them. And then as I go out, my brush is almost dry. Just making little movements as I pull the color out, so I can keep my highlights, because you don't want to turn the whole, yes, elephants are gray, but in order for this to look realistic, we have to have lights and darks. Just using the very tip of the brush, very gentle strokes. I don't want to press hard, just enough to get a little bit of color. I want to keep that nice light edge. This light edge it comes forward, and this dark right here behind it makes it go back in. That's the beauty of values. Values creates an illusion of mass and shape. It's what takes a plain drawing and turn it into something three-dimensional. It gives it more life, makes it more realistic. Oops, got a little dark right there. If it gets too dark, we just lift it out. Now we got some dark spots in here. First I like to get my darks sort of done first, and then I work my way to the light. I don't want to bring that color up too much, so I've got to be really careful so I can keep my lights. Just grabbing a tiny bit of the color. I want to be able to see that edge a little bit, so we'll just need a little bit of gray here. That's kind of how we do it. Okay, now this tusk has to stay white, so I'm going to be very careful not to put any color on that tusk. This is dark because it's underneath. And then we've got these lines here to show some of the texture of the wrinkles in his tusk. Oh yes, bottom edge has to be darker because it's underneath. Keep the lights. Alright, now I'm going to put some color on top here. See how I'm avoiding the tusk? I don't want to put any color on the tusk. I want to keep it light because it is white. It must be a much brighter color. Put a little bit of shadow above it. And I think I could bring down some of this dark right here underneath to just help that tusk stand out a little bit more. Even under here, this thickness of skin could have a little shadow there. I'm very careful to avoid painting the tusk. Okay, now this area is shadowed, so this we can make it dark. And by making it dark, we push that leg back behind, 'cause it's on the other side of his body. And his head and ears kind of create a shadow on it. Now down here, the light catches it, so it's going to be lighter. Wash pencils are a very fast way to create values with very little effort. It's all a matter of checking out, what am I trying to say? It's all a matter of the values, just keeping the values, knowing what's dark and what's light. And it doesn't take very much water. If your paper is buckling, then you're using too much water. To lift out a color if it's too dark. There, see how fast that was done? Guess we can have it a tiny bit darker up there.